Hi everybody, Rich Carrubba from bowlingball.com. I want to talk to you about the series of editorial articles that we're posting on in the Bowlversity section of bowlingball.com site. You just click on Bowlversity and you click on the editorial link in one of the boxes and it'll bring you to a list of various editorials. This one is a tribute to bowling great Don Johnson. Now, I'm a little sentimental here. Don Johnson, not only the legendary PBA Hall of Fame champion, most of you will recall or certainly have heard about if you follow pro bowling and you're a real advocate of the sport. He had a stellar and well-documented career. But bowling great Don Johnson was my personal friend. He was my buddy. We became closer and closer, although he passed away at 62 years of age in May of 2003. The last 10 years of his life, we both lived in Las Vegas. We had both competed years ago before on the Pro Bowlers Tour, and I was never really close with him. He was a superstar champion, and I was just a run-of-the-mill touring player. So we didn't really run together, but toward the end of my career and his, we kind of meshed. We got closer and closer as friends, and I never thought that would happen, but it did. And then, of course, when we lived in Las Vegas, we became very close because we had a lot of things that we shared personally and socially, and including we would get together with our wives, Carolyn and my wife Gail, from time to time and do social things. And so that brought us together. And after his wife passed, Gail and I really took Don under our wings to care for him or look out after him. He was pretty depressed about it, as you might understand. He was such a caring and giving person. He cared about his family more than anything else. His sons, Jimmy and Scotty, and his daughter Amy, and their kids. He would travel a couple of times a year to go spend time with them, even that they lived back in Indiana or in Ohio, and he lived in Las Vegas. He was always very caring and giving of himself and very supportive of his family and his friends. And when I got a call from Don's longtime friend Rick Peter in Las Vegas, who's a friend of mine, and he let me know Don had passed, it was a sad day, and I was pretty shocked. I had only had dinner with him a couple nights before. But I watched a couple of things I talk about in the article, and I'm going to ask you to read the article, not just listen to what I have to say. There's two things that come to mind that Don, that when I think of Don and I think back emotionally about him, that impressed me to no end, that you'll never read about in a PBA media guide or searching or Googling or Yahoo his name, for example, on the internet. You're never going to hear about it. Don and I watched the Saturday telecast in November of 1991 when his son Jimmy made the TV show at the Brunswick World Open in Chicago, Illinois area, greater Chicagoland. And I had a couple of chances to win that tournament. Don actually won it twice, the first 2 years of it in 1971 and 2. He beat Larry Lobb, he beat Mark Roth in respective years, and he was the first World Open champion. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, that was a big deal. That was an important tournament back in those years. It was never labeled as a major, but people came from around the world to compete in it, and it had a lot of media coverage. Sports writers came from all over the country. You made the top 24, you got bowling, made the top 10 or something. That was a big deal back then. And Don won the first two tournaments. So to have his son a chance to win the same title, after Don shared with him and passionately tried to motivate his son to become a good player, to teach him what he had learned, even though it's very difficult because people are different. You could be father and son, but you can be very different people, as we all know. And Don worked hard and shared with Jimmy for a long, long time, and Jimmy broke through and made the TV show. And I sat, just Don and I, at Don's home in his living room. We watched the telecast, and to see the emotion in Don Johnson's face, in his voice when he spoke, as we watched the show progress and we got into the final match, and it was obvious Jimmy was going to become the victor, to watch the pride and watch the emotion and the love coming from that man was very, very special to me. And when Jimmy finally won the tournament and the trophy presentation was underway, and they handed the trophy and the check, and I think Jimmy won a boat also in that particular tournament, Jimmy turned to the camera and he said, and I could still hear those words echo in my mind today, "This one's for you, Dad." Well, I don't have to tell you how emotional that was. Don got silent. He never said a word, and I didn't either. and I just listened, and I kind of watched Don, and I kind of watched the TV, and I was watching Don, and he was just choked up. He couldn't talk. Nothing said. And with that, Don turned around. He stood up. He turned around, and he walked away and ascended the stairs upstairs to his house and left me. And I knew why. So I turned the television off, and I left the house, and I didn't talk to Don until the next day. And but it was such an emotional and powerful moment to watch Don walk away. He later told me he cared about that more than anything he ever accomplished. Don was a humble man and was a people's champion. Now, Don used to coach, and we used to travel and do clinics and exhibitions and those sort of things. And I got invited with Fred Borden and Don Johnson to do a coaching clinic in Sarnia, Canada. I believe it was across from Bay City, just across into Canada. And we did a coaching clinic at a local bowling center one day. And then after, we were invited to a banquet which was actually honoring other athletes. And Don was one of them. I think Dino Cicerelli from the Minnesota North Stars and other hockey players were going to be honored, and they were going to post a tribute to Don Johnson because he was going to be there. When we got to the banquet facility, it was a beautiful facility and a wonderful room and was formal. We were dressed up. They had a wonderful dinner. And I sat with Don and Fred and a couple of other friends of ours that attended the clinic at our own table. And finally, I looked at the itinerary, and Don was the final speaker. They did the presentation of awards or ceremonies to the other athletes, but Don was the guest speaker. And when it was his turn to get up, just before he did, I nudged him and I says, "What are you going to say?" He says, "I have no idea." He had nothing planned. He went up there, and what proved to be one of the most motivational and inspirational speeches I ever heard by anybody do, with no presentation, it came right from his heart, goes to tell you what kind of person Don Johnson was. You know, Don talked about how important it was to bring desire, determination, and dedication, the 3 Ds, when you go to the lanes, when you go to school, when you go do your job, anything you do in life. And he built a whole theme around that, and you could hear a pin drop how quiet it was in that room of several hundred people while Don spoke. When Don completed his speech, the room and everyone in it rose as one in admiration. I'll never forget it. It was pretty emotional. That was a person. Don said, as one of his final lines, is, "I've been to the top of the mountain and the view was beautiful." And I still get the chills when I hear that back in my mind. He says, "I ask each of you to climb your own mountain and keep your head held high, no matter how far you rise." And the true measure of success is not how far you climb, but that you try. And that's what Don's message was. So I guess I'm sharing that same message with you, getting a little emotional. But he was my friend. Now, we've all remembered Don was a great champion. We remember him bowling that .299 game on television to Dick Ricker's .268. I think it was about 1970 at the Firestone Tournament of Champions at Riviera Lanes in Akron, Ohio. And ladies and gentlemen, that was a big deal too. That tournament was a huge tournament back in those years. The Firestone, that was kind of the pinnacle event, wasn't it? And everyone wanted to win that tournament. Well, you know, as players, we could watch other great champions, and I bowled against other great champions, just like Mike Durbin, Billy Hardwick, Barry Asher, Jim Godman, Johnny Petraglia, Jim Stefanich, Dick Ricker, Wayne Zahn, others, on and on and on, not to leave anybody out, Nelson Burton Jr. But when it was Don Johnson, he was our champion because he was the most versatile. He was a riverboat gambler. He would make a bold move in a minute's notice. Whatever he did, he tried to win. He was a gentleman when you were competing against him, but inside he was ferocious, and everything he did was dedicated toward being fast and loose and winning. And Don was just a tremendous, tremendous person. He had a stigma that he was the guy to watch, to keep your eye on, to make a charge from the middle or the back of the pack to the top of the leaderboard. He made that charge famous on a Pro Bowlers Tour. He only had one gear on the lanes, and that was full throttle. I miss Don Johnson. He put the wide use spread of the plastic bowling ball into popularity, from the rubber era to plastics, by use of the Columbia White Dot Caramel Ball on Pro Bowlers Tour, and became Bowler of the Year in 1971 and 1972, and was the first guy to average over 210 on the tour for all those games, each of those years. I think he got up to 214 one year, and at that time, that was pretty impressive. We didn't have these Surlyn-coated bowling pins with voids in the middle of them, and these nice phenolic pin decks and flat gutters that are raised up and pins that jump around. We didn't have urethane or reactive resin bowling balls. In fact, we were just getting into the non-red label lane finish era from the old lacquer lane finish era. And so Don accomplished these things out of skill, out of talent, out of love and passion for the game, and how hard he worked. So his words, desire, determination, and dedication, are strong ones to think about today for all of us. Well, I guess I can end by saying that the late, great Dick Weber is always going to be my hero. He was my bowling idol, but Don Johnson is always my champion. And may that memory of Don Johnson live forever. Thank you.